I'm here with the great Mark of the Eternal to talk about their upcoming new record, Skinwalker, out June 28th on RPM. First of all, thank you very much for your time. It's an
My
absolute
pleasure.
pleasure.
Well, thank you very much.
I have to start off by asking you, the Skinwalker as the title of a record. Are you watching that History Channel show about Skinwalker Ranch or something like that? Is that what
Well,
inspired?
well, we don't have History Channel in Australia.
Okay, so that never mind that then.
But the concept of the Skinwalker, I did watch some stuff about that early on in the writing process, and um it's not literally about that. It's more of a metaphor for people in your life that kind of appear in one way and kind of change shape and metaphorically, like they don't appear as they come to you, and they leave you in a different way, I guess, kind of energy vampires, if you will, so I used it as a metaphor for that, I guess. I like the concept.
I like the idea, and what you're saying is very true, and it's perhaps a little bit more obvious in close relationships that we have with people that we think they are one way, and with time we've come to discover that they're not quite exactly how we thought they were.
No, and I became really fascinated with the concept of narcissistic personality disorder, and how people kind of mimic you, or let you see what you want to see, and once they've got you entangled, they kind of tear you down, I guess. And I guess anyone that's come across a real skinwalker may know that something's not right in the situation, or something is in a different way. So yeah, so I guess I yeah, used it as the idea, but for real people in our lives, I think everyone's faced people like that have left them um less than what they were.
Yeah, I can totally relate to that. Uh, Making this album, how was it for you, and how different it was from previous records?
Well, I mean, it's quite unique now. Obviously, we have Jan Reckberger and Nicholas Edelavoy in the band now. Nicholas previously of Amorphous and Jan in Amorphous. So the band has been together for 21 years. I'm the only original member from every single album, if you look back over the discography. But I guess this album kind of changes things a bit, because we were short of a drummer. We came back from a European tour in 2019, and we were friends with Jan and Nicholas. And in fact, we were hanging out with them while we were in Finland touring. And when we got back, COVID was just a little possibly about to
Right.
kick off, and we just thought, what the hell, why can't we try something different? We need a drummer. So we asked Jan, and he was like, yeah, well, I can't tour right now, so I'd love to sort of be involved. So it's sort of started as a session situation, but he just quickly became so involved in the process of rearranging and working on the songs with us, and he just kind of joined the band really quickly. And as all the lockdowns were taking place, we worked on it through that period. And then, of course, we had a situation where our bass player left because he had his second child, and Nicholas just came to my mind, like, let's go all the way. Let's get two Finns and two Aussies and see what we can do here. So I think it's really affected our sound. Obviously that rhythm section played together for so many years. Probably around 17 years, I think those two were together. So it was just natural for them to play together. And they're also very prolific and professional musicians. So they just for the brought in new opinions and new concepts and new ideas to the band. So it just became really fresh. The guitarist Richie had been in the band for the album before, and he's a phenomenal lead guitar player, um, and songwriter. And just I think the four of us just lifted the level of the band to a new level. So I think in that respect, it's got a lot more textual density. If you look at the early albums, probably the first five primarily, this is our seventh. It's led by my songwriting, and I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but I think I've done my time to learn how to write a decent tune, but I think that it was one dimensional in that respect that I did everything, you know. And when Richie came, a new dimension came, but when the other two guys came, then bang, it's like it's got these four dimensions, and I think that's why it's kind of piqued some interest, I guess.
So the pandemic basically opened this new door for you guys to do this collaboration and move the band in a different direction. So not all was negative for you when it comes to COVID.
No, I mean, the tough part about it was Australia was the most locked down country. I think we were locked down for a whole year in total, like not allowed to leave the house, and that made working very difficult and things like that. But yeah, it did allow us time to work on this collaboration and get to know each other creatively and turn it into a functioning band. In fact, it works remarkably well. I would say this is the most creative, stable lineup. Um, Not to say that I do not want to discount previous members of the band. We had some long-term members in the band previously, but I think creatively this is this is more even. I don't have to run things creatively all by myself. And that's really refreshing for me. So yeah, it allowed us to. It also was an experience for me to, you know, open up to something I'd controlled for a long time, and listen to other people's ideas and go, hey, that's different. And also, those guys are from a different culture. Half the band is culturally Finnish, and half the band is Australian. So it's also a cultural collaboration. If you look at it like that, it's two cultures coming together and sharing musical ideas. And you know that their ideas are definitely culturally different than what is what we would do here. So it really just opened up this palette of sonic ideas. And it just also happens everyone in the band is a sound engineer. Like we're sitting in my studio now, and Jan's got a studio in Helsinki, Nick's got a studio, Richie's got a studio. So we're all professional sound engineer type people. And yeah, that really helped as well. Our love for production and making the record really helped as well. And we actually mixed it together in Helsinki face to face. So everyone, all four of us were in the room together for the mixing process in Helsinki. So yeah, it's been a very exciting evolution of the band.
Yeah, so you have a new lineup and a new album that was born out of chaos, if you will, with the
Yes.
pandemic and everything that was around it. Now there's no pandemic, there's no restrictions. So how do you see the next steps for the band? How do you see the next the next step in line in order for the band to continue to evolve?
Well, obviously we're planning on touring. We're working at our options there. Like obviously it's logistically more complicated than if we were in the same place, but it will happen. And believe it or not, we're already recording a new album. So during the period of when we were negotiating our record deal with RPM, that took about 10 months. And you know, and the period of waiting for the album to come out, we completely demoed 13 new songs because we were just really creative. Everyone in the band submitted complete demos, and Jan's just finished doing the drums for the next record. So we have no intent to slow down. So we are recording a new record, which is really exciting. I think it really consolidates our collaboration because we did it from scratch together. There was no sort of demos before we started. Um, and yeah, so new album, and but before we get ahead of ourselves, we want to tour for Skinwalker. So I get the feeling most likely that we'll start in Finland, probably Australia, and then we will hopefully, you know, look at you know, I mean, we've been to America before and Canada, but I'd love to do it with this lineup. So, yeah, we have all intention to you know, it's not just a project by all means. It is a band, it's a business together, and the four of us are moving forward together. So it's very exciting, and I'm really excited to get this line up on stage, which we haven't done. We've shot music videos, we've mixed together, we've made a record. Now we've got to get it on the stage, and I think it's going to be really cool when we do.
Going into the record, I really enjoyed listening to this album. I thought it was a super well crafted record across all of the different parameters that you can look at. But the one thing that came to mind was that if I'm working at a record store and I try to put this album under a certain category for people to buy it, I honestly don't know what category to put it under. There's a lot of diversity, for a lack of a better word, in order to describe what the sonic experience of this record is. How do you bring all of these sounds, all of these different experiences, and still create an album that is super cohesive from beginning to end?
Thank you, thank you. That's actually really kind. Many years of practicing. I don't think it's always been cohesive. I think if you look at some of our earlier discography, we started very much as doom and gothic kind of melodic doom, influenced by I guess, the 90s UK scene. You know, Anathema, Paradise Lost, and My Dying Bride. When I was a young man, that's really what tickled my fancy, and that's what started the band. And then, I moved into more sort of gothic rock territory, I guess, and then, we started bringing in progressive elements because I was really into, I discovered Porcupine Tree, and I was into like a lot of 70s sort of prog and all that kind of stuff, and that sort of started to come in as I became a better musician, naturally. Um, so I guess it's kind of like melodic dark metal with gothic and progressive overtones, I guess. Um, and it just sort of naturally evolved. I think the progressive elements showed up a lot on the last record, even though that was a really doomy record as well. But with this new record, I think what Jan also, we'd always experimented with world music elements, like, kind of Eastern sounds and things like that. But Jan, his father was a composer, and he is a composer, and he's very much into bringing in textures and sonic elements. So when Jan got involved, he was, for the first drummer that really brought in a lot of percussion. So that adds a whole texture. And then Jan also came up with the ideas for the throat singing in Skinwalker and things like that. So it gives it this kind of, I guess, otherworldly texture to it. And then of course, at this point in our age group, in our career, we like prog a lot, but we always say that we don't want to do prog for prog's sake. We don't want you to have to sit there and count out the songs. We're probably more from the Pink Floyd school of prog, where we want to take you on a journey with the long progressive elements, but we're not here to show you how good we are, or we're not here to show off in time signatures. And Jan's really good at reminding me of that. If I do something that's just tricky for tricky sake, he's going to be like, "Come on, man." We're writing songs as well, so it's just all this culmination of things that I think the band's been developing for a long time, and some records it didn't quite come to fruition yet. I think I was looking how to put it all together, but when this team came together, this group of gentlemen, it was just the right time for it to really gel and cohesively work. That, yeah, my voice is kind of very melodic. It's not power metal. It's not doom metal. It's kind of gothic, but it's not, So then you've just kind of, we just call it the Eternal, man. We sound like the Eternal. I think we're not like at this stage in our age, like fanboying, like, I mean, we have influences, like, we love to, when we're driving around in Helsinki, we're listening to like Porcupine Tree and Stephen Wilson and Rainbow, and we love Rainbow, man. We love old shit as well, So that's all. I don't know, it just all gelled together and seems to be cohesive. And of course, I think the difference between this and the last one is the last album opened with a 20-minute song, just for the fucking sake of it. If I
And it was
can
the
swear.
opener.
Yeah, 20-minute song called The Wound. It was kind of me, like, I don't know, I just, what am I doing? The band was at a kind of a low point, and I was trying to bring it back, and I just like let all limits go, and I was like, fuck it, I'm going to do 20-minute songs. I'm going to do whatever I want to do. And it really worked. It was received very well, but we've refined that more here. No 20-minute songs, still some 10-minute songs. We did a lot of, I think what Jan and is really great at is helping us self-edit, helping us say, hey man, we can cut this. It's tense sometimes. We were over in Helsinki arranging at Christmas time for the next record, and when you present a riff to the guys or a song, you're always a bit, oh, what are they going to do? But Jan's really good at helping, discuss the relationship of the arrangements, and as music producers, we have to step back and work on that together. So I think this album just kind of it consolidated what the Eternal is aiming for at this stage of our career.
It's funny that you mentioned that because yeah, the Wound was 19 plus minutes, almost 20 minutes. That was the opening track of the previous record. Now you
Yes.
open this record with Abandoned by Hope, which is a 10 plus minute song. So you cut it in half. You cut it in
Well,
half.
actually, it was about 14 minutes when we wrote it, but we went through a lot of arrangement stuff on that song to get it down, to cut stuff out, and it was really like difficult for me, in a way, because I was having someone new in the band say, "We've got to cut that, man," and I was like, "Fuck," it was really challenging. But when you step back and put your ego out the window and put your record producer hat on, you've got to listen because it helps the songs grow. And I think what makes Skinwalker a really cool album is it is the opinions of four people. Lyrically, it's mine, my opinion. Um, that's kind of my space to completely sort of drive the narrative. But ultimately, when Jan's working on stuff, he has all the lyrics. He's reading all of my lyrics, so, and the same with the other guys. So I think it's when it gets more collaborative, then the self-indulgence, even though we still have 10-minute songs, becomes less. I think even though Abandoned by Hope is 10 minutes long, I think it still takes you on a journey. And I don't think
100%.
yeah, I don't
It's like
think
a
it's
song
too
within the
boring.
song.
Yeah, there's a lot of movement. I think the singles, like I did see you do your react to Deathlike. And I think Deathlike is probably a bit misleading of what the whole record is.
Yes.
Because the whole record is we've got the Iconoclast, we've got Shattered Remains, we've got Abandoned by Hope, these big kind of prog dark epics. But of course you got to let people into your world lightly. So, I think Deathlike, not to discount Deathlike, because writing a song that's really catchy and gets to the point is sometimes harder work to make a short song interesting and have all the highs and lows and do it within a compact arrangement, particularly when you like to go on epic journeys. So that was it's a challenging song as well. But obviously, I think when people hear the record and they hear it in context, start to finish, those singles that we've released will make more sense.
I agree with you on that, and I thought it was really interesting as well that both of your last records start off with really long songs. I mean, you got the Wunda, like I said, 19 plus minutes. Now you
Yes.
have Abandoned by Hope, 10 plus minutes. It's not very normal, even in prog bands necessarily, to start a record with a doozy like that. Normally, those come a little bit later in the experience because you kind of want to soften the blow. You want the listener to be a little bit more ingrained in what the overall feel of the record is. And then when you throw in a longer song like that, it becomes a little bit more palpable, a little bit easier to digest.
Yes.
You guys start off this roller coaster ride by having a huge mountain to climb right off the get.
Yeah,
Do you think about that when you're putting the track listing together?
yeah. I mean, it's really interesting because when we'd finished the record, we didn't have a record deal yet. Like, so we weren't thinking about singles and we weren't thinking about success or, even being on a bigger label or anything like that. The Eternal had always been on smaller labels, smaller Finnish labels primarily. And we kind of knew where we were, what lane we were in, and we kind of knew we could just we weren't thinking about singles and metrics like you do when you get on a bigger label, I guess. So, I guess when we signed to RPN and when we were negotiating that, they did bring up that we have really long songs and it was, what can we do? And I guess we kind of well, like the album's done, like that's what it is. Like we kind of stood our ground on our concept. Um, but then we did have to start thinking, oh shit, do we have any singles? Do we have some songs that fit that are tangible? Um, so I don't know, man. It's really challenging because obviously, we got a bigger deal. And I've always been very realistic about the band and it does it doesn't affect the way you think about writing music, but it is a factor in, can you get people in to listen to the music? And I do wonder, like, oh wow, Abandoned by Hope's pretty dense. Like, it's not going to be for everybody, you know. And maybe some people are just going to skip to Death Like Silence. Maybe people are going to skip Death Like Silence and listen to 10 minutes of the Iconoclast. I think there's something for everyone. I don't know at this stage if we're going for the 10-minute opener on the next record. I think everything's a little bit more refined from what we've written. I wouldn't say more commercial, but definitely we've looked at the arrangements writing from scratch. But Abandoned by Hope just has such a fucking killer first riff, and it's an opening riff of a record. So we just went with it, man.
It's one of my favorite. I already recorded my album review for this record, and I put it in my top three favorite songs of the record. I think it's one
Thank
of the
you.
best songs of the album. I'm not a prog guy by no means. I find that I'm not intelligent enough to get it. So most prog goes completely over my head. Funny enough, my favorite songs on this record are the longest songs on this record. So you guys have definitely done something right because you made it at least very even the most proggier songs of the album are very accessible because I felt like this is an album that, from a prog perspective, it's more about the journey. And like you said earlier, not
Yeah.
about the technicality of it. And because it's about the journey, that's what becomes progressive to me, the way you guys took me on that journey. And that
I
makes
think you
longer
worded that
songs more accessible.
You worded that very, very well. We're not there to like. I mean, I love shit like Dream Theater and stuff like that, but we're not there to like. We're not there to um make you count out the time signatures and try and work out all this shit. I mean, um, it loses to the average listener. It loses a bit of musicality, and I think the thing with someone like Pink Floyd is that they throw in interesting stuff, but it's still musical and it still appeals to a larger, demographic of people. Um, and it's still experimental and goes on a journey. And that's what I love about, prog music. I love, listening to some over the top technical shit, but that's not party music. That's not what you're listening to with your friends. That's like maybe with the guys in the band, we're listening to some stuff and going, fuck, that's crazy, counting it out and all that stuff. But ultimately, I'm not John Petrucci. I can't. I got to play. I've got to do it within the realm that I can play still. So there's one thing to do it in the studio, but you still have to be able to play and go on that journey with the music. So a journey is a good way to describe the Eternal's new album, and a lot of people have used that word. It's a journey, and to me, that is kind of the prog that we like. We're not going to try and Richie does some scorching solos. Don't get me wrong. His solos are um, you know, a flashy, and he's got a lot of class and a lot of speed. And my solos are more like the one in Abandoned by Hope that's like Dave Gilmour, like the kind of more melodic, slower stuff is my style, where Richie's got a lot of technicality in his playing. So we get the best of both, We get the flash, we get the really exciting stuff for the people who are into the shred, but then we have the peaks and the troughs, I guess.
One last question for you, because you mentioned earlier something about your vocals, and I really enjoyed your vocal performance on this album. But I want to take your own personal look when you hear your own voice when you're recording an album like this. What do you see as your biggest strengths, and do you try to stay away from your weaknesses?
I think, as a sound engineer, I always say to my clients, no one wants to hear you rehearse on the record, right? So I think you should always do what you're good at. I'm not good at singing other people's songs. Maybe some, but ultimately, I'm a good singer for the eternal. I'm not a good. I can't go to karaoke and do like a pop song really well. Maybe a Depeche Mode song. I don't know, but some. So when you stop thinking about, what I should do, and I'm singing for the eternal, then there are certain things that I do. Certain ways I do harmonies, certain ways I do vocals. I can go quite high, I guess. I can go quite low. I would not consider myself a technically brilliant singer by any means, but um, I guess like when you're young and you're in a band, I was kind of, oh, someone has to sing. So if you listen to early records I did, like with my old band before the Eternal, I'm sort of just moaning and doing doomy vocals. At some point, I found my melody, and then I think even if you go back to the first Eternal record, you can recognize it's my voice. So I I I think I might, you might be able to go, "Oh, it's a little bit like this, it's a little bit like that," but I still think my voice ultimately has its own character because I can't sing like anyone else. I sing like myself. But some of my early influences probably show through like Paradise Lost and things like that. But primarily we're just trying to do, and obviously I don't do the growling on the vocal. That's Tommy J from Amorphous doing the growling. Um, and yeah, so my strong point is clean melodic kind of vocals and harmonizing with myself. So stick with what you're good at, I'd say. I'm not going to try and turn around and turn the band into a power metal band because I can't do that. And yeah, so it's hard. I've learned to separate myself from my voice as a sound engineer, and I treat it often like an instrument. Like I use my voice to texture things. So on the record, you're going to hear lots of oohs and ahs and background textures. And I really like that about Porcupine Tree and Stephen Wilson, the way he would use his voice as an instrument and textures in the background. That was quite an influence on some of the ideas I started to do where my voice became an instrument in the mix as well. So you'll hear stuff like that in the record too. You probably have. So.
Yeah, I have already, and it's a great record to listen to. I highly recommend everybody going pick up Skinwalker, once again out June 28th on RPM. The Eternal, their latest record. Mark, thank you very much for your time today. It was an absolute pleasure
Thank
to
you,
talk to you.
Pedro. I appreciate it, mate. Thank you very much.
Take care, man. All the best.
All right, you too. I'll see you soon, mate. Bye.